This is Newsroom on SABC News. Hello and welcome from Johannesburg in South Africa. I'm Eben Jansen. The show is broadcast every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. Highlights are then repeated at 2 o'clock in the afternoon with a whole rebroadcast 5 a.m. the following morning as well. We also stream live on YouTube between 9 and 10 a.m. every day in the week, and then the whole show is available on our YouTube channel all of the time. Today, we look back at what was a grueling week in the North Gauteng High Court for murder accused Oscar Pistorius. We are joined by the ANC Women's League, who have taken onto themselves to follow both Pistorius and the Shrien Dewani murder cases. And we have a look at what's happening on our digital platforms, the banning of elephant trophies hunting in Zimbabwe as well. First, though, let's take a look at the news headlines. Murder accused Oscar Pistorius will return on the stand for a third day in the North Gauteng High Court in Pretoria later this morning. State prosecutor Harry Null yesterday accused Pistorius of failing to take responsibility for any of his actions. Today, Null is likely to address the events surrounding moments leading up to and after Pistorius shot Reeva Steenkamp in much more detail. The air and sea search for the missing Malaysian airliner has resumed in the area, where a fifth signal been detected in recent days. The latest sound is confirmed to be consistent with that of a plane's flight recorder. It will narrow down the search for flight 370 off Australia's west coast. The port of Richards Bay is still assessing damage caused by Sunday's oil spill from a corroded underground pipeline. Attempts are being made to contain and clean up the leak to prevent widespread damage to mangrove beds and marine life. Now, the North Gauteng High Court is expected to hear the final part of State Prosecutor Harry Null's cross-examination of murder-accused Oscar Pistorius in Pretoria today. He stands accused of 4 charges, including the murder of his model girlfriend Reeva Steenkamp on Valentine's Day last year. Null has thus far only skirted around the events relating to the murder charge. It is expected that he will today address the events surrounding the moments leading up to and after Pistorius shot Steenkamp in much more detail. The athlete will most likely face his toughest questions yet. Now, joining us as always from the North Gauteng High Court is Griselda Lewis. Good morning once again, Griselda.
Very good morning to you, Eben.
Hasn't been a great week for Oscar Pistorius, has it, Griselda?
Well, certainly not, Eben. We've seen Oscar Pistorius almost at his weakest, where he's broken down several times inside court as the details emerge of what happened on that morning on Valentine's Day when he shot and killed Reeva Steenkamp. First of all, he started off with an apology inside court where he really broke down and for the very first time apologized to the Steenkamp family. And we really saw both families, both the Pistorius family and the Steenkamp family, showing the worst emotion that we've seen as yet, breaking down when we saw.
Well, it looks like we're having a little bit of trouble with that link. Seems as if the sound has gone down. Can you hear me, Griselda? Are you back?
Yes, Eben, I can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. We lost you there for a second. I wanted to just look ahead to today. They say, or the word on the street, as it were, is that today will be the toughest questions. Today will be the grilling of all grillings.
Oh, well, certainly that seems to be the case here, but as we're expecting State Prosecutor Harry Null to continue his cross-examination of Oscar Pistorius. Well, you saw yesterday, just before we had adjourned, that Harry Null was really getting into Oscar Pistorius, trying to get him to admit that, in fact, instead of there being a very loving, quiet evening before Valentine's Day, that in fact in the early hours of that morning there'd been a fight at Oscar Pistorius' home between the couple, and that Reva Steenkamp had fled to the bathroom, running from Oscar Pistorius for the very first time. We saw the state yesterday make that claim, of course, to the objection of Barry Rue, Oscar Pistorius' defense lawyer, advocate. But we're really expecting grueling testimony today as we go back into the bathroom and into the area where Oscar Pistorius shot and killed Reva Steenkamp. So far, we've seen some inconsistencies in Oscar Pistorius' version of events, where you will recall during the course of the week where Oscar Pistorius changed his version and said that, well, he did not go onto the balcony to go and fetch the fans. He had stretched out to get them. So he blamed several times somebody else or even his defense team for some of the inconsistencies that were on his statement. So we're not expecting Oscar Pistorius to have a very good day in court today. We've seen the fangs, if I may, of the state prosecutor as he continues to poke holes in Oscar Pistorius' statement, his character really coming under scrutiny yesterday as well, with the text messages between the couple which show a fractured relationship. And you would recall that the state also saying that not once did Oscar Pistorius ever tell Reva Steenkamp that he loved her, and that the only messages that Reva Steenkamp had sent saying that she loved someone was to her mother. So his character really coming under scrutiny also with the reckless use of firearms. You'd know that Oscar Pistorius has apologized. He said it was very stupid of him to have taken the firearm from his friend at the upmarket restaurant in Johannesburg. We also know that he's on other occasions left his firearm unattended. One instance was when he was coming from the Vaal Dam with his friends, where he left after being stopped by police officers when he was in the car with Darren Fresco and Samantha Taylor. He left his firearm unattended on the passenger seat. And also at the Vaal Dam as well, the Vaal River, where he left his firearm unattended in a towel as he took a swim. So basically, he took a swim. So basically, Oscar Pistorius at this stage really not having a good week in court.
The judge had some choice words for Gerinel yesterday and others in the court after they laughed, some laughs out of the gallery and from Mr. Nel. Just tell us what happened there, and are we going to start on time today? Do you think the judge will have them in chambers maybe beforehand?
Well, you'll know that two of the state witnesses were Oscar Pistorius' ex-girlfriend Samantha Taylor and his friend Darren Fresco. So they both gave evidence that Oscar Pistorius had shot through the sunroof of a moving car after becoming annoyed with a police officer who had touched Oscar Pistorius' gun. When the officer asked whose gun it was, why it was left unattended. So both claimed that Oscar Pistorius got very frustrated, and as they moved away from the area where the police officers had stopped him and his friends, Oscar Pistorius got annoyed. He took out his firearm and fired through the sunroof of that moving car. Oscar Pistorius says that's an absolute lie. He says that the evidence that Darren Fresco and Samantha Taylor gave was inaccurate. He says they both lied about the incident. He denies, in fact, that incident ever happened. So basically, he claimed as well that perhaps the testimony of both had been a fabrication, and said that he had heard that post-testimony, he only heard post-testimony of both of those state witnesses that Samantha Taylor and Darren Fresco had met, somewhat implying that the two had concocted to give the same evidence inside court. And when Gerinel asked him who exactly told him that the two state witnesses had met, well, Oscar Pistorius says he did not recall. Well, that's exactly when the gallery burst out laughing, and so did Gerinel, and you had the interruption there, or the interjection of Judge Thokozile Masipa, who said, well, that was not for entertainment, and basically everybody should behave themselves inside court.
Griselda, thank you very much once again for the terrific work you're doing outside the North Gauteng High Court, keeping us in the loop as to what's happening. Just to recap, murder-accused Oscar Pistorius will return to the stand for a third day in the North Gauteng High Court in Pretoria later this morning. It, of course, will be live on this very channel. State Prosecutor Gerinel yesterday accused Pistorius of failing to take responsibility for any of his actions.
Apologise and say that there's not a moment, and there hasn't been a moment since since this tragedy happened that I haven't thought about your family.
It's this apology which launched the state's ceaseless attack on Oscar Pistorius' character.
Concerned about what's good for Oscar. You started your evidence off in this court with an apology. Am I right?
That's correct, my lady.
Now, that was more than a year after the event.
That's correct, my lady.
The scene set for the state's portrayal of the athlete as self-centered and egotistic.
You're sorry that you have to think of them. You're sorry for their pain and sorrow, but you're not sorry that you killed their daughter. It's not in
I'm
there.
terribly sorry that I took the life of their daughter, my lady.
Now you say that.
Then more evidence to prop up the state's case that Pistorius was selfish. WhatsApp messages indicate she was scared of him, and how Pistorius accused her of flirting.
You're blaming her for what happened. She should have introduced you. She was wrong.
That's correct, my lady. That's
So
what
you're
I'm
blaming
saying.
her. That's all I want to know.
That's what I'm saying, my lady.
Look, you see, the issue is, it's all about you.
To a shooting incident at an upmarket restaurant.
Who pulled that trigger?
I didn't pull the trigger, my lady.
Who did?
The next charge, that Pistorius shot through the sunroof of a moving car. The athlete denies this, despite the testimony of two state witnesses.
Both of them indicate that you fired through the sunroof. That is definitely a lie.
That is a lie, my lady.
If Oscar Pistorius is convicted of a firearm offence, in terms of Section 103 of the Firearms Control Act, he will be declared unfit to possess a gun. Criselda Lewis, SABC News, at the North Gauteng High Court.
The African National Congress Women's League has applauded the South African justice system for taking the issues of justice for women seriously. Since the start of the Oscar Pistorius murder trial, a cluster of women wearing the green and black uniform of the League have gathered at the courthouse to march in support of Reeva Steenkamp's family. League members also demonstrated outside the Western Cape High Court when murder-accused British businessman Shrien Dewani made a brief appearance after he was successfully extradited from the United Kingdom to South Africa this week. The Women's League has also committed themselves to support and advocate for justice for Annie and all women killed by their partners. From Cape Town, we are joined by the ANC Women's League Secretary-General, Sisisi Tulashe. Good morning, ma'am. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for inviting me to your show.
Let's start with your involvement. Why is the League so passionate and present at the Oscar case in particular?
ANC Women's League is always active in cases of gender-based violence because from the inception of the ANC and the Women's League, what we found out from the beginning is that we are operating within a patriarchal society. And because of that reason, the gender-based violence becomes an issue where males demonstrate their strength against women. And in the case of Pistorius, it has been demonstrated that the young man showed that he had a lot of firearms and he could have just shot at anything like a bird. And as women, we are not taking very kind of that, and we are saying enough is enough. And with Dewani's case, also there, a woman was a victim, and also we are saying we are with the family of the young lady who was killed, and we are saying she's a victim, and her family, we are with them all the time. We are having prayers to make sure that her family is strong, and the case is now brought to South Africa for the young man to face his music.
Now, ma'am, the critics, I read earlier in the week, the critics, they say about your campaigns, they say that you're very present at these high-profile cases, but you're not that present at some of the lower cases like Marikana and so forth. Why is that, ask the critics?
Thank you, sir. Marikana case, I don't think there's gender-based violence involved there. Of course, we are part of women of Marikana. We know what they went through, but for sure they did not go through a gender-based violence case. on which other cases we're involved in. We are involved almost in 9 provinces. We're involved in the sugarcane case, where a serial killer killed many women. We're also involved in Mpumalanga, where again a serial killer has just been sentenced. We've been involved in the Inner Bonnet case in Limpopo as Women's League. We're definitely involved in Stutterheim case in Eastern Cape, where there was a trafficking of young girls. We're also involved in Butterworth case, where the serial killer around the village was found guilty. We are involved in many cases of gender-based violence. It's just that sometimes the SABC is not present in those cases. Almost we are everywhere all the time. We have just produced some statements where other cases were ruled on the victim's behalf, and we're good, very happy. We are almost everywhere, almost every day. It's just that TV sometimes don't cover, especially those low-profile cases. I
wanted to ask you about the challenges, the biggest challenges when tackling issues of gender violence in South Africa, especially, including children. What are the biggest challenges, and what do you think needs to be done?
The biggest challenge is that in majority of cases, women died in the hands of their loved ones. It's a very serious challenge because they give themselves to those people because they trust them, and at the end, it's the same people who kill those women. As for the children, they have their parents or anybody who is supposed to legally look after them. So in majority of cases, it is the people that are known by the victim who gets involved in such cases, either children trafficking or gender-based violence. That's the worst challenge that we are experiencing in South Africa.
Ma'am, thank you for joining us this morning. That is the ANC Women's League Secretary General, Sisisi Tolashe, joining us live from Cape Town there. Let's take a quick look at what you're talking about on social media. Lots of traction, of course, as always, the whole week, actually. Oscar. It's been a little bit light. Sort of wish the Oscar Pistorius would stop crying. Geez, enough. That's from Stephen King. That's the man who writes all the chilling novels. He thinks even Oscar's crying too much. Elizabeth says, Oscar Pistorius jealous, insecure and controlling. I can only see he's sorry for losing his future, not for the loss of beautiful Reva, says Elizabeth. Court says, Courtney, irrelevant questions, killing Oscar. He's innocent. Don't try and imprint what you want him to believe in his head. Everyone has an opinion, I suppose. Mrs. Nwulu says, you shoot once and it's a mistake, but 4 times it's definitely intentional. Hashtag Oscar Pistorius. Nida Karim says, yes, Nal should be tactful, but it's not necessary for him to be that rude. Unfortunately, that is the nature. That's the nature of court proceedings normally here in South Africa. The only difference is we don't see it on television every day. Now, let's have a look at what's on our Facebook page. Of course, plenty there for you. You'll find all the latest regarding the Oscar Pistorius case, of course. Photos, hashtags, articles, Twitter handles to follow. Then Woolworths, South Africa's second biggest retailer by value, aims to open 15 stores in sub-Saharan Africa. More on that story as well on the page. And Transport Minister Dipo Peters says the country is spending 14 billion rand annually on accident victims. All of that more on our Facebook page. You can go there. Now, today in history, we remember the Ellis Park Stadium disaster, labelled as the worst sporting accident in South African history. 43 people were killed in a stampede at Ellis Park here in Johannesburg, a football match between South Africa's 2 biggest teams, Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates. 250 others were injured as people poured into a stadium that was already full to capacity. 29 people died inside the stadium and a further 14 outside. On YouTube, we found the following clip.
Guys, it's absolute pandemonium here. I don't know what's going to happen. I can't even count the fatalities. It just seems like it's a big number. And once again, the security has just not been tight enough. And this is one of the saddest things that I've personally ever been witness to. And as I say, I can't count how many there are, but there are a lot. And I don't think that this match is going to continue. Guys, it's back to you.
Digitaal liggame op die veld het net bly styg en styg. Die een uur was dit 'n handjievol mense wat daar gelê het. En oomblikke later was daar tientalle stil figure langs die veld.
Yeah, it was one of the saddest days in our history, our football history and our sporting history. 43 lives were lost in the Ellis Park Stadium disaster. After the break, we're going to look at elephant poaching and poaching networks in neighbouring Zimbabwe. Don't go away. You're watching Newsroom.
I'm Dr. Cyril Matau. Watch Health Talk every Saturday on SABC News as we unpack gripping health issues on the African continent and beyond. That's every Saturday at 9 a.m. on DSTV Channel 404. Health Talk, making you aware.
Zoom into Africa. This is Sierra Leone. The president is Mr. Ernest Bai Koroma. Sierra Leone got independent from the United Kingdom on 27 April in 1961. The population is more than 6 million people. One of the major languages spoken is English. Monetary unit is Leone.
Newsroom on SABC News. Welcome back. The United States has suspended imports of sport-hunted elephant trophies from Zimbabwe, citing questionable management practices and a lack of effective law enforcement. The ban follows a massive ecological disaster at Hwange National Park last year, which saw hundreds of elephants being killed through cyanide poisoning by poachers. The ban, announced last week, is said to be welcomed by conservationists in Zimbabwe. Americans make up the majority of trophy hunters in Zimbabwe, exporting an average of 160 elephants per year. We are joined now on the line by SABC Zimbabwean correspondent Shingai Nyoka, who is in Harare. Good morning, Shingai.
Good morning to you, Eben.
Shingai, just tell us, trophy hunting, how big is it and what kind of impact does it make in Zimbabwe?
Well, it's one of the largest income earners for the tourism sector in the country, earning about $15 million a year for the country, as well as for private players. A lot of this money has been used, at least we understand about 30% of this money goes towards national parks and its operations, which it says it uses for conservation and as well as to stop poaching. And so really this has, according to government, this will have a huge impact in terms of its conservation program and in terms of the revenue that comes in to support the operations of the national parks.
I'm sure then, Shingai, that a lot of this money would then end up in the coffers of conservation and anti-poaching. Just tell us how big poaching then is and what kind of the threats with poaching then in that country.
Well, that's the question. On the one hand, you have the government officials saying that ever since the ecological disaster in Hwange, up to 300 elephants were killed, there's been a lot of support that's come in from private players who've donated equipment for the anti-poaching activities, and that they've been able to reduce the number of incidents of poaching to single figures. But what conservationists will tell you is that this whole industry is extremely opaque, also because of the lack of resources. Zimbabwe really doesn't know how many elephants are killed every year. Some of those are not just killed through poaching, but when wild animals make incursions into settlement areas, generally a national park shoots them. And so there's a lot of questions, a lot of discrepancies and arguments between some conservationists and authorities in terms of getting figures as to how many of these elephants are killed every year. And I suppose that's why the United States has decided to impose this ban, because they say that they're not really clear about what exactly is happening in the country.
If I'm not mistaken, hunting season starts next month. Is that right? How will it affect that? And also, who will it affect the most?
The hunting season is throughout the year, but many of the people are starting to come in, or the traditional seasons are generally April to about October, November. You'll know that Zambia and Botswana had banned hunting in their own countries, and so Zimbabwe was expecting a 10% or $10 million increase in terms of its particular revenue this year. But that's unlikely to happen given this ban. The hunters will simply go elsewhere. And what we understand is that this is likely to impact your private game reserves, who are the majority of the hunting concession owners, as well as a lot of the government officials who were last year allocated hunting concessions and licenses to be able to hunt some of these animals. But the trickle-down effect, obviously, on the community will also be huge, because they had also been allocated quotas, hunting quotas, even though these were minimal, even.
Shinga, thank you very much for joining us this morning. That's Shinga Nyoka, Zimbabwean correspondent on the line from Harare in Zimbabwe. Now, time for us to take a look at what's been happening online and what continues to happen online, because it's 24/7 all of the time. I'm joined this morning by Digital News Elections Executive Producer Stephen Lang. Good morning, is that right?
Good morning, Eben. Nice title, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big, long title. I like it a lot. But before we get to the elections, it's been a very interesting week in South African media, hasn't it? Shrien Dewani, I think, was probably the only thing that knocked Oscar off the perch for half a day or so.
Yes. It's been a very exciting week and great for journalists and journalism, and specifically great for our website, sabc.co/news. We started the week with his arrival, but what we decided to do is to keep track of the timing of events. We put on a timeline on our website so that people can see what is happening, when it's happening, and we're going to develop this timeline as we go along.
Yeah.
This story is not going to go away. It's going to last for several months still, so it's there and we can see what's happening. The footage we're looking at now is of his actual arrival at court and at the airport. Remember, the journalists were taken by surprise that he was brought in with a private plane and not in the commercial plane that everyone was expecting. We're going to keep following the Dewani story, and as you can see now, we just need to do a search for the Dewani story, and you'll see we have dozens and dozens of stories that keep going all the time. And keep your eyes on this. It's going to develop, and we're developing it on the website as well.
Well, it's really interesting what you guys are doing and so informative. Then service delivery protests, it seems to be almost out of the news a little bit. But the reality is that there's been a slight decrease in service delivery protests around the country. That's interesting ahead of the election.
Yes, it is interesting. We got some data from an NGO called Municipal IQ, and they recorded that, it's always difficult to get a good perspective on, are there lots of service delivery protests, or are there not? And the cameras tend to focus on the drama, so we're not sure, is this really happening? So we've got this fantastic map here, and we've plotted the points where there are all these service delivery protests happening. And as you can see, there's information there as well about each particular incident.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's very informative, and we're going to keep tracking with this.
And very easy to use also. And I understand you link some video footage with it also.
Yes, we got some really interesting footage. Today there was a lot of footage from Bloemhof, which was the most recent.
And the most dramatic.
Most dramatic. We had radio journalists that were actually stoned, and the SABC vehicle was set alight. But we've got some dramatic footage that was not put on television. So if viewers want to see some unedited footage that was just ingested onto our system, and you can see what happened. And we're going to continue with this practice of putting in unedited footage, the raw stuff, and this is really exciting stuff. People can see what's really happening
here. That's brilliant. People can almost see into the sort of archive, the footage that you would never see otherwise. Really interesting stuff that you guys are doing.
It's a fantastic value add.
Of course, Oscar Pistorius, before I want to talk about the elections last and deal with Oscar Pistorius. Special reports I see and special coverage. Just run us through what...
We've got a huge amount. Obviously, Oscar Pistorius is not only the biggest story in this country, it's the biggest story internationally.
Yeah.
So we've got a selection of high-quality photographs that people can look at. There's a beautiful gallery of photographs.
And apparently they're very good. They're a little bit different and quite outstanding pictures that you wouldn't see otherwise. There you have an intimate moment in court, for instance, that you don't see on sort of mainstream TV and mainstream media at the moment.
Yes. There's a bit of an information overload, but it's really dramatic to see these intimate moments, as you said, and we're going to continue putting these photographs up so viewers can keep coming back to see these photographs that we have. We also have a lot of tweets, people clogging up the tweetosphere, so to speak. And
so lots
amazing.
of... what do you call it, a timeline, and the tweets are sort of stacked in the timeline.
Right. Yeah, we have a timeline of when the tweets are coming through, and we also have an interesting cross-examination and an analysis of all the tweets that are coming through. We're seeing how many people are in favor of Oscar, how many people are sympathetic to him, what people think of the prosecutor. Not very good things there, too.
Would it be fair to say that from what we see online in the last couple of days is that public sentiment is kind of turning on Oscar a little bit after his performance on the stand?
It seems like it. But we've got the stats up, and it's changing. It's a dynamic thing. And, of course, the SABC also has 6 reporters that are tweeting on the Pistorius trial. So it's interesting to get their different perspectives. You can see these there. It's updated all the time, and it's really interesting.
Now, elections, 4 weeks to go, or about 4 weeks to go to election day, and that's really within the wheelhouse that you are running.
Yes.
Tell us how we're going to inform the public firstly, but I suppose also entertain people around election time.
Well, entertain, yes. We have to keep people's interest, but of course, I love elections. Elections are fantastic, and I enjoyed this coverage. This is, you see on the screen now, is our special report.
Yeah.
This is available now. It's live now. And all the stories, or not all, most of the stories that are related to the elections, campaigning, etc., we're putting in this special report. It's very easy to find. You just go to the special reports tab on the navigation bar at the top. But next week, we're going to have a special election results subsite. And in this subsite, you'll be able to see all the election news, but you'll be able to see tweets related to it and additional information related to market surveys, opinion polls, etc. A whole lot of very interesting stuff that should be live next week. It will be arrived next year as well. But what is interesting is that we've already got all the previous year's results. So people can have a look. It's all nicely aligned, and you can see how the results worked out in previous years, and you can draw your own conclusions about what's likely to happen in the future.
Absolutely, and it seems there's a real appetite for people to get involved. Now with social media, you can actually physically get involved into the election, which I suppose is what people like.
It's very exciting. I love it.
Stephen Lang, thank you for joining us this morning. That's SABC Digital News Elections Executive Producer Stephen Lang. Let's just take another look at what you're at. Well, we're on about social media all the time, so let's take a quick look at what you're talking about. On Candace Sever says, geez, even Stephen King is in on the action. Stephen King, I sort of wish Oscar Pistorius would stop crying. We carried that tweet a little bit earlier. Yes. Oscar Pistorius is chopping and changing his story when he is caught out. The clincher is when he turns to blame his expensive legal team. That's right, Oscar has blamed quite a few people, accused many people of lying, changing his story, police, a conspiracy against him. Terry Thomas says, if the prosecutor in the Pistorius trial wants to prove Oscar has a temper, just show his reaction to being beaten in the 2012 Olympics. Yeah, that was an interesting one. I watched that one live. Queen Lad says, who would have thought that people will set alarms to watch the news? It's like we are watching a movie, Oscar Pistorius. We are watching the Oscar Pistorius movie playing out live in front of us. Daniel Kalinaki says, from what my friends in South Africa are tweeting, it looks like Pistorius is due an Oscar. Yeah, that is an interesting one. Well, keep your tweets coming. We love interacting with you. We love putting it up. And we're going to take a short break. But when we come back, hopefully, court will be in session and we'll be at the North Gauteng High Court for day 21 of the Oscar Pistorius murder trial.
Interactive, making the subway block home on the train. Do not keep it to yourself. No police officer or an MC employee. Remain alert and have a safe day.
Well, the world we live in, I didn't warn you about that one. That was a rat on a subway in the United States, in New York, causing all sorts of consternation. A rat, you wouldn't say that. It nearly brought the subway to a standstill. Time for that short break. We come back and we'll be with the Oscar trial at the North Gauteng High Court.
Village is a large family homestead with 16 huts, each of them with its own specific purpose.
My responsibility, it is taking care of the family. As far as cleanliness is concerned, I have to make sure that I keep the home as clean as possible every morning when I wake up.
That's Kaleidoscope, Sundays 5:30 p.m. on SABC News. Zoom into Africa. This is Burkina Faso. The president is Mr. Blaise Compaoré. Burkina Faso got independent from France on 5th August 1960. The population is more than 17 million people. One of Burkina Faso's major languages spoken is French. Monetary unit is CFA.
Welcome back. You're still with Newsroom on SABC News. We're waiting for, the Oscar trial to get underway. It seems there's a slight delay. It looks like Judge Masipho might have them in chambers for a little bit of discussion this morning before the trial gets underway. But let us just take a quick look at the top stories on SABC News right now. Murder accused Oscar Pistorius will return to the stand for a third day in the North Gauteng High Court in Pretoria later this morning. State Prosecutor Gerrie Nel yesterday accused Pistorius of failing to take responsibility for any of his actions. Today, Nel is likely to address the events surrounding the moments leading up to and after Pistorius shot Ruben Steenkamp in much more detail. The air and sea search for the missing Malaysian airliner has resumed in the area where a fifth signal has been detected in recent days. If the latest sound is confirmed to be consistent with that,
still under oath, Mr. Pistorius.
Thank you, my lady.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Nel.
But please, the court, my lady. Mr. Pistorius, my lady, I received a request, and that's why I have my cell phone in my hand, from Mrs. Steenkamp, that after the adjournment yesterday, she informed me through her advocate that Mr. Pistorius did in fact request a meeting with the Steenkamp family prior to the trial, but they were not ready for such a meeting. And I'm putting that in record.
Thank you very much. So it's confirmation of what Mr. Pistorius
Mr.
said.
Pistorius said that yesterday, and Mrs. Steenkamp felt that it was important that we put it on record. I didn't know about that before yesterday.
Thank you for letting us know.
Go, please. You've also heard that, I'm sure, Mr. Pistorius?
I have, my lady.
Now, Mr. Pistorius, because I went back there's just one other aspect that I have to deal with. And in your evidence in chief, you indicated how important your religion is to you and how important the fact that you're Christian is to you. And you confirmed that, am I correct?
That's correct, my lady.
You also said that you've always wanted to have a partner that was a Christian. Is that correct?
That's correct, my lady.
My lady, it is at page 1396 of the record. Now, was Riva then your first Christian partner?
No, she wasn't, my lady.
I didn't hear that.
I beg your pardon, she was not, my lady.
You'd have to speak a little louder.
I beg your pardon.
The questions that I'm going to ask you now, it's got nothing to do with your faith. It has to do with your relationship. So, although it deals with religion, I'm not challenging your faith. Do you understand that?
I understand, my lady.
Good. Because you see, Mr. Pistorius, I find the way that you gave your evidence interesting. You said that Riva was a very strong Christian. You appreciate it.
Yes, she was, my lady. She prayed with me. She prayed for me. She tried to be a better person. She liked to listen to Christian music.
You've now cut my cross-examination in half. She prayed for me. It's about me. Your evidence was the same.
Well, lady,
she would pray for me at night. We would pray about everything. Pray about my training. Pray about all the small things I had in my life. That's true. That was because she prayed for you. That was important.
That's true, my lady.
Now, I'm going to deal with your exposure to crime and how you've been a victim of crime. Now, just deal with yourself. Have you ever reported a crime at the police station?
The only crime that I reported at a police station, my lady, or had a case against I had a case against the South African Police Service for wrongful arrest in 2009. It wasn't a reported crime, but there was a docket that had been opened.
Yeah, no, but the question is different. Did you ever go into a police station and complain about anything?
No, I did not, my lady.
Now, I will go through all your exposure. Why did you not do that if you've been exposed to crime before?
My lady, if we can go through the list of the crimes that I've been exposed to, the housebreakings. When I got back to South Africa, as I said, the housebreaking was a week or more earlier. There was a TV missing. I didn't think that anything could be done about it. I didn't have insurance at the time. There was no reason for me to open up or to go to a police station and report the crime. When I was shot at on the highway, I didn't want to go to the police station. I didn't think they'd be able to do anything about it. When I was assaulted in December 2012, I didn't want to go to the police station because the person that was who was on the phone with me before the assault, I'd heard that he'd had connections at the police station. So I was fearful to go to the police station. So a friend of mine, Mr. Justin Devaris, organised a meeting at the Hawks, and we went straight to them.
Good. Now we have it. You've been a victim of a burglary where they stole items from your house. You never reported that to the police.
That's correct, my lady.
You had a dog kicked in your yard. You never reported that to the police.
The police came out on that occasion, my lady, but there was never a report or a docket opened. It was just seen as there was no burglary or break-in.
Now, that happened whilst you stayed somewhere else, not at Silverwoods, am I correct?
That's correct, my lady.
Now, then you moved into Silverwoods. When was that again?
It was in May 2008 about, my lady.
Now, in Silverwoods, whilst you were there, you were never the victim of crime at your house.
That's correct, my lady.
There were no burglaries or anything at your specific house.
That's correct, my lady. Except for the police stealing my watches, my lady. That was the only victim of crime I've had at my house.
Now, what also happened at Silverwoods is that I don't know exactly when, but I know that it was early in 2012 that they increased the security at Silverwoods. Is that correct?
On several occasions they increased the security, my lady. I'm not sure at which periods. I was often away for months, and I heard from other residents that they had upped security measures and then those measures didn't work, and then they tried to reinforce new measures and those measures were breached, and then they employed new security companies and there were problems with those security companies. So at different times there were different increasing measures that were taken. I'm not sure what the measures were.
And you felt it was safe enough to leave your cars outside and not in a garage.
That's correct, my lady.
So you never thought that somebody would break into your car?
I never thought that somebody would break into my car, my lady.
You thought that it was safe enough not to immediately fix a broken window downstairs?
My lady, as I said, I had bought the glass for the broken window and it was in the process of getting repaired. So I was in the process of fixing it.
But it had been broken for a while before then?
That's correct. There's a latch at the top where the hole of the window was, and there's a latch at the bottom of the window which one wouldn't be able to reach. But it was important for me that I got the window fixed, and I had gone through the process of doing so.
There's no burglar proofing in front of that particular window that was broken?
There's no burglar proofing on any of the windows, my lady.
Now, you say they've been busy working at your house. For how long before the incident would you say they've been busy working there?
I guess about a week, my lady.
And you were not concerned about the ladders that the builders would leave in your yard every night?
I was concerned, my lady. I asked the building contractor if he'd mind putting the ladders in the garage at night. I don't remember checking it every night, but I checked in on one occasion if they were in the garage at night.
But this night you didn't check?
No, that night I did not check, my lady.
So let us just say that, why did you not check? Was that not important?
It was important to me, my lady. I don't know why I didn't check it.
But you were kept up to date about the security measures at Silverwoods, meaning the guards would be patrolling, how many guards there would be, and that there will be control at the gates.
Really, that's contrary to what I said earlier, is that I wasn't up to date. I knew that there were improvements made from other neighbours, but I wasn't up to date into what security measures had been increased.
Interesting, because if somebody is so concerned like you, I would have expected that person to find out exactly what they're doing. Why did you not do that if you're so concerned?
As I said, my lady, I spoke to various neighbours in this state who informed me that various things had been done. I can't remember now as to what was done and when it was done. I was aware that improvements were constantly being rectified. The estate obviously had to build up a fund or a treasury to afford these things. So at times, when I spoke to Mr. Stander, he would tell me that I think he was on the Homeowners Association. He would tell me about certain things that had happened whilst I was away, certain incidents. On the odd occasion, I'd get an incident report when I drove in at the gate, which I would read, but I wasn't aware of specifically which improvements had been made and how many guards were patrolling and that sort of thing.
But or rather, tell us, did you at any time ask people to do specific things, that you indicated to them how concerned you were about security at the Homeowners Association?
I've never been to a Homeowners Association meeting, my lady. I'm often overseas. I don't know when the meetings are held. I wouldn't be at home for more than half of the year, and even if I was in South Africa, I was seldom at my house, so I didn't follow the Homeowners Association meetings, but I was kept in contact with some of the members or Mr. Stander would relay the messages if I'd asked him about them.
Then, would you please just explain your alarm system, because I tried to read it again and I don't understand your alarm system.
My alarm system comprises of internal sensors, it comprises of external sensors, and it works through a monitoring box like a normal alarm system with a battery pack, backup battery pack if there's power failure, and then it's got a remote, my lady, so there's one button that you can arm and one button that you can disarm, and then one button if you're staying in at the house and you only want the outside sensors to be activated so that you can still walk around the house, so that if a guest is staying over or staying downstairs, that you can activate the alarm outside and that you'd still be able to walk inside.
So what did you activate that night?
I activated the alarm of the house, so the inside and the outside of the house.
Okay. So before that particular night, you were satisfied that there's enough alarm systems and sensors outside so that if somebody would come onto your premises, you would pick it up?
It's not what I said, my lady. I said in my chief that they were building at the house. It's possible for them to take an alarm beacon off the outside wall, a sensor off the wall. But they're not bolted onto the wall. You can take them off. When they painted the house the previous time when they were doing maintenance work, they took some of the beacons off. The beacon doesn't have memory of what it saw last time it was activated. So if you took that beacon and you placed it somewhere else on the house, or if you left it off and the alarm was activated, it would monitor what it saw and it would register any disturbance. So I wasn't confident that there was I didn't know what work they'd done at that time on my house, but I knew that at the point of them painting that there was a possibility that they would take the beacons off the wall.
Okay. There's quite a few things we have to just look at here. Firstly, this happened in 2010 when they painted your house the previous time.
I don't remember, my lady.
No, tell me what you remember when. When did this happen?
I remember that they painted my house. It may have been 2010, my lady. The paint that the developer used wasn't of very high quality, so the paint was running and it formed cracks on the house. I had to get the waterproofing redone and the house repainted, and that would have probably been about 2009 or 2010.
So can we now agree that it's in all probability in 2010?
We can believe that in all probability it was probably 2009, 2010. It may have even been 2011, my lady.
No, that is not good enough, because you gave evidence, and when you gave evidence, you knew when it was. Because it is important that we get an idea when that was.
If I think about the time I moved into my house, if it was within a year of moving into my house, it would have been covered by the building contractor. There was a year warranty on the snag list. So it makes sense that if it was within a year, so to May 2009, I would have got the builder to redo the work that was done on the house. So it must have been after that period that I got it done, because it was done independently. It wasn't done by the building contractor. And so it could have been any period. I don't remember what date it was. It could have been 2009. It could have been 2010.
What I hear today, though, is you said there was a possibility that they could have taken off some of these sensors. Was that now when they painted the house?
That's correct, my lady.
Now, if you say it's a possibility, did you check up on that?
I said I didn't check up on it, my lady.
So you don't know if they took some of it off or they did. You don't know.
I don't know, my lady.
Okay. Now, if you knew that they took off some of the sensors, you would have checked up on it, because you're security conscious.
I didn't know if they'd taken some off or some on, my lady. I didn't check. I knew that they were in the process of painting the house, and that there was a possibility that they may have taken some of or one or some or more of the sensors off the walls.
You see, I don't think it's so significant, but unfortunately I have to show you that you've changed your evidence to what you said in chief today about the alarm. Why?
I don't remember me changing my evidence, my lady. If Mr. Nal may show me, then...
Yeah, I will. Gladly. My lady, I'm referring to page 1464.
Page
1464 of the record, my lady.
Thank you.
I'll start reading from line 5. They do not work with wiring. So, when they had painted the house in 2010, they had taken all the eyes off the outside walls and they painted the home.
That's correct, my lady.
No, but that's not what you said today. And that's my question. Why would you change it today?
I said that when they painted the house in 2010, that they took all the lights off. If you look at the paint colour behind the lights, they're consistent with what the house colour was. So they did take them off the wall, my lady.
No, you see, that's not the question, Mr. Pistorius. The question is, today you said you don't know if they did.
We're talking about two different incidents, my lady. Mr. Nal's talking about in 2009, 2010, what my evidence was in 2010. I said in 2010 that they took them all off. What he's referring to now, what I was saying, I don't know if they did, was in February 2012. I don't know if they did in February 2012. They're two different incidents that he's trying to refer to.
With the utmost respect, Mr. Pistorius, this is now the biggest indication of you tailoring evidence. You cannot have made that mistake. It's impossible to do.
May Mr. Nal please read the context in which I said that?
I'm reading nothing. I'm asking you, why did you make the mistake, sir?
I didn't make the mistake, my lady.
You cannot explain the mistake in the way that you're doing. You're tailoring your evidence. You could not have made that mistake.
My lady, my understanding is that they're two different incidents. That when I spoke about the 2010 incident, 2010 renovation, they took the lights or the beams or the beacons off the walls. In 2012, I was unsure if they had taken them off, if they were in the process of taking them off. I didn't know which parts of the house were being painted at the time. So they're two different incidents, my lady.
You see, Mr. Pistorius, I'm going to take you up on this answer, but I'm coming back because you're getting deeper into trouble. So are you telling me that in February 2013, you did not even know if they've taken it off then?
That's what I said, my lady.
But why did you not check?
My lady, I came home late in the day. I wouldn't be walk around the house and go check what they've painted and what they haven't done. The building contractor was somebody who was busy with the process.
And
I don't know how it would have helped me if I checked if the alarm beacons were on the wall or off the wall. I wouldn't have had an option. There would be nothing that I could do. I presumed that they may have been taken off the wall.
No, you see, Mr. Pistorius, that is the problem with tailoring evidence. You have to keep explaining. Because, really, there is no way, Mr. Pistorius, that you could have misinterpreted my questions. You're now in trouble, and now you just give an explanation that's nonsensical. Why are you doing that?
I haven't tailored any evidence, my lady. If you look at the record, they're two separate incidents.
You gave no evidence in your evidence in chief about tampering or working on your alarm in February 2013. Not a single word.
I didn't tamper with my alarm.
You see, Mr. Pistorius, you're not listening to questions, and that's a problem. Listen to the question. You gave no evidence about anybody working on your alarm in February 2013.
If I didn't, then I didn't, my lady. That's correct.
No, that's not that easy. Why did you not? Why would you now confuse it today? It's not that easy.
I'm not sure, my lady.
No, you must be sure, Mr. Pistorius, you're giving the evidence.
If Mr. Rude didn't put a question to me, my lady, I'm sure that he had a reason for it. I don't know what the reason would. I don't know why I didn't talk about the alarm system, my lady.
So we're added at the rule list for mistakes.
I have full trust in Mr. Rue, my lady. I don't doubt why. If there was a reason why he wouldn't ask me about it, I'm sure that reason is with him, my lady.
No, it's because
I'm not blaming it on anyone. I'm saying simply that if it didn't come up, I don't know why it didn't come up.
You see, Mr. Pistorius, and it's the second time I put it, and I'm putting it to you because that's really what I believe in. Mr. Rue will not make those kind of mistakes. You are tailoring your evidence as you're standing there because you were confronted with a contradiction.
I didn't say Mr. Rue made a mistake, my lady.
But now let us... Okay, I'm going to just put it to you and then move on. So, what your evidence is, in 2010, they took off all the sensors off the wall.
To my knowledge, that's correct, my lady.
Now, being security conscious, you checked your alarm after that.
What was Mr. I beg your pardon, my lady, I didn't hear the full question.
Did you check your alarm after that? After that work was done in your house in 2010?
Yes, my alarm was working after somebody came out to check that the alarm system was working, my lady.
So, in 2010, after they've finalised whatever they did, paint your house, you had somebody come out and you were convinced that your alarm was 100%.
That's correct, my lady.
And in 2013, you did not know, at least, of any malfunction of your alarm.
I wasn't aware of any malfunction of my alarm, my lady. Sometimes the battery in the remote would go flat and I'd have to use the keypad. Sometimes the alarm would go off in the middle of the evening, but I wasn't aware of any malfunction.
But one thing we have to then work in somewhere in your version is your deactivation of the alarm that night.
Is that a question, my
Yeah,
lady?
when did you do that? When did you deactivate the alarm?
I deactivated my alarm just before I left my room to go open the front door, my lady.
That letter, okay. I'm going to put it in there. You didn't say that in your evidence, you know that. You did not give that evidence, do you know that?
If Mr. Null puts that to me, then I respect that. I didn't say that.
So we must now put in that you phoned the Mr. Stander, and it's not. I'm not going to that portion of your evidence. I'm just doing it in broad strokes. You made phone calls to Mr. Stander. You made phone calls to 911, and then you had to go down and for you to open the door.
That's correct, my lady.
In that process, you still remember to deactivate your alarm.
I don't remember deactivating my alarm, my lady. I remember grabbing the keys for the front door, which were on the speaker. Every night when I come into my room, I close the door, I activate the alarm. Every morning before I leave my room, I deactivate the alarm. It's a habit, as is doing any other thing. The only reason I can say that I deactivated the alarm at that point was because the alarm never went off. It would have gone off when I ran down the stairs. It didn't go off, so I can confer that I don't have an independent recollection of putting the alarm off.
That's not what you just answered, because when I just asked this question, and the record will bear me out, when I just asked you a question, you said, I deactivated my alarm in my room.
That's correct, my lady.
Now you don't know. That cannot make sense. It's two different things. You're tailoring as we go.
It makes complete sense, my lady, because if I left my room and the alarm was still activated, it would have gone off. So I must have deactivated my alarm.
You see, there you're right. Must have is perhaps more convincing than what you said. You said, before I left my room to go downstairs to open the door, I deactivated my alarm. You didn't say must have. You said as a fact, and I'm testing that.
That's correct, my lady. I made a mistake. I must have said must. Should have said must have. I couldn't put it as a fact, as I don't have a independent recollection.
Why would you make a mistake like that? Because you just want to answer Nell's questions, and you just want the way out. Or why would you make such a mistake?
No, I do want to answer Mr. Null's questions, my lady. It's not that I want a way out. It's that it makes sense to me that I must have disactivated the alarm. If I said that I deactivated the alarm, that's what makes sense to me.
You see, the problem here is, Mr. Pistorius, you spontaneously gave the answer. And that spontaneous answer cannot be interpreted in the way that you want the court to interpret it now. It's impossible. Must have was never said. Why are you changing your evidence?
It was a mistake on my behalf, my lady.
We get lots of mistakes this morning, Mr. Pistorius.
I'm tired, my lady. I'm sorry if I got the wrong word. I meant I must have turned my alarm off. It makes sense to me that I switched it off. Nobody else could have switched it off. It didn't go off when I ran through the house. It didn't go off at a later stage. It can only make sense to me that I switched it off.
You see, your answer now puts me in a predicament. Are you too tired to continue? Because I don't want a response again today that I'm tired and therefore I made a mistake. So I want you to please tell the court, if you're tired and you want time, we will discuss it with your legal team.
My lady, it's not that I want time. It's that I'm tired. I'm going to be tired. I don't need time. I am tired. It's not going to change. I understand the predicament that Mr. Null's in. I just ask that he bears with me. I've made a mistake. I've admitted to making a mistake. I said I must have switched it off. I can't be sure that I said I can or I did switch it off because I don't have an independent recollection of switching it off. So I must have switched it off. It didn't go off later, and at that point, if I didn't switch it off, then it would have gone off.
You see, with respect, Mr. Pistorius, and I'm just saying that I'm not convinced about your answer now. I think that you're trying to cover up for lies. And I'm not convinced. So,
just before you proceed, Mr. Pistorius, it's important that you should be all here when you are in that witness box. You understand that?
I do, my lady.
So if you are tired and the reason you're making all these mistakes is because you're tired, you must say so.
My lady.
It doesn't help to say it's not going to change.
I understand, my lady. I am tired, my lady, but I made a mistake with the way I answered the question. I said I did where I must have. I don't have an independent recollection. Mr. Nell's right, my lady. I'm not arguing the point with him.
But that is not the question. The question is, are you too tired to proceed?
No, my lady.
Because you can be at a disadvantage when you are in that box.
I understand.
You understand that?
Yes, my lady.
Yes, it can't be fair to you. And it's not fair to this court either.
I understand, my lady.
Are you making these mistakes because you're too tired?
I made the mistake, my lady, not because I'm tired. I made the mistake because I don't have a... Mr. Nell put to me that he asked me, and I said that I switched the alarm off before I left my room.
Yes, but then can we accept that you haven't made this mistake because you're tired? Can we accept that?
I can accept that, my lady.
No, can we accept that?
Yes, my lady.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mr. Nell?